This is Patitos Gang, and today on all cylinders we are firing on the subject of the Okada ban in Lagos. You know, public policy always cuts all kinds of sides. The people who will be hurt, the people who will benefit, but the issue is always the overall common good, the interest of all. In banning the Okadas, the motorcycle gangs from the streets of Lagos, people have been upset, people have been very happy. What are the issues really involved? Why is the Okada ban such a critical portion of how we get our society to work? What's happening, guys? Why is this such a big deal? I mean, there are people who say, look, this is one of those kind of policy choices that makes matters worse. I was a great lover of Daniel Patrick Moynihan in the US, who talks about iatrogenic policy choices. Iatrogenic policy is like iatrogenic medicine, where the cure or the medicine administered does more harm to the patient than the original disease. Is this an iatrogenic policy choice, or is this fit for purpose? Is this really going to drive us to where we're going? What's the Okada ban about, really?
Very interesting. Again, just staying on the line of public policy. We also know the thoughts of Widowski on the choice of public policy. The idea of thorough engagement of all participants in public policy. One, it's clear it's consistently lacking in our climate. But take it away and look at the issues. My understanding, and it's well known, that there are three things that make an economy work. One is factories that hum, talking of capacity utilization. The second is ability to move people, goods and services. And the third is rule of law. Now, this is a big stroke on transportation, because if you look at the chain of transportation and the number of people that have been affected, you ask yourself, what was the level of engagement and discourse prior to this ban, so that everybody understands? Because it was only after the ban that I heard that we're going to put buses on the road. So does that show thoughts and rigor in understanding that the value chain of people who will be hurt, the consequences? Yes, you're trying to solve a problem, but have you created more problems in trying to solve whatever issues you thought that these participants are causing to the society?
But you also get people who are vigorously arguing that there's an overriding security consideration that is critical.
That is not to be taken away. That's not to be taken away. The issue is, what was the rigor in thoughts? Because you have passengers, you have people who make a living out of this. There's a value chain from the importers to the distributors to the mechanics who work on this. Just see what is happening on the streets of Lagos today. Young people and old people have to trek kilometers to get to their destiny. No problem with the issues of security. What were the alternatives? What are the policy choices to say, if you are taking this off, what am I using to ameliorate the consequences and effects of this decision? I think that's what the issue is all about. There are no doubts that security implications, government needs to, in the best interest of the society, to deal with it. But what were the thought processes to ensure that, hey, we will ameliorate the fallout of this decision we're about to take? And that's what is fundamental in all of this. And that's what public policy is supposed to deal with.
I see this thing as a two-pronged issue. You have the issue of problem of people moving around by banning Okada and Keke Napep. You also have the issue of security, which is paramount as far as I'm concerned. The fundamental issue is it better for people to be alive and walk from A to Z, or to be bombed out of the streets? You have to be alive to be able to move. The overriding factor is that there was security breaches in Lagos. We had the chief of army staff, I think, recently say that Param is in Lagos. I'm sure we all heard about it. I'm an insurance broker. I'm an insurance consultant. A year and a half ago, I had opportunity of insuring 10,000 motorbikes for a state government in the north. I did a job. But on second thought now, having seen what is happening in Lagos, I wonder, where are those 10,000 motorbikes going to? To what intent and purpose? I think government may have thought about it, like Charles said, but the overriding factor is safety of people first. I see that as a consideration.
So people will suffer naturally.
Well, I think I have a slightly different take on this, in the sense that I get the argument about need to move people from point A to B. And I don't think for good measure anybody is happy seeing a 7-month-old pregnant woman trekking down 2 p.m. Or you have families who are grounded at home because their kids couldn't go to school. Their kids, I mean, you have a family of maybe a husband, a wife, and 3 kids. 3 kids who used to be taken to school using keke marwa and mapep and whatever. And suddenly now you are going to have, they're lucky to have 1 car among the family. So the guy goes to work, drops the wife, the driver comes back home, pay the kids, and so on and on. If you have a driver. So there's a problem with moving people from point A to B. And as you just said, the thoughtfulness or thoughtlessness of government is beginning to show in that particular regard. But the security argument is a little more complicated than people are made to believe. Let me give you just a teaser. If we say, as the government has said, and as most of us want to believe, that the prime consideration for the ban or for the restriction, whatever they call it, is security, as this restriction addressed the insecurity caused by Okada or Kekenape. What do I mean? Number one, you've banned it, so to say, by saying we don't want you in Ikoyi, in VI, in Ikeja. But it's okay, you can go to Yanopaja. You can go to Egbeda, Akonjo, Ketu. They are still there. So what you have done is that you've driven them from some places in Lagos, and you've driven them to another part of Lagos where Lagosians living. So the question is, are we saying
Are some lives more important than others?
thank you, you took it from my mouth.
Black lives matter.
So that's the point. So every life in Lagos matters. What the government has done from point of security is completely, as far as I'm concerned, is unacceptable, indefensible from that point of view, because you've simply driven them from one part of Lagos to another. I was joking with somebody that if I live in Alimosho, I'll be making a different argument that you've made me completely unimportant by allowing Okada to be plying there and you're banning them here. I want to feel important. I want to tell me as a government that, you know what, my life also matters. So that security argument doesn't
Even
really
as
work.
a corollary, the question then is, even on this insistence on the security issue, that security concern couldn't have arisen in 2 weeks that it took them to. They would have had
Charles,
see where I'm going to. See where I'm going to. I'm saying that for a government that is structured, that gets security briefs and information, they would have heard about this. So it was a planning process. So being that this is what the issue is, what is the holistic way through which we can address? Are you saying to us, are you saying that it is through the banning of Okada and Keke Marwa that will solve the security threats that we are seeing?
I think the truth to a large
And going
extent.
to the fact then is, if that is the issue, then why did you not ban Okada all over Lagos? Now, in the areas where you did not ban Okada are the most congested areas. Precisely. So, it's a ticking time bomb. That's what you have done.
So the argument should be that
So you have
we need
pushed
to
like
extend the
10,000
ban
banner
beyond.
No,
It should go beyond the.
Sorry, just let me clarify it. What Prof just said, it's not that we should actually extend the ban. I have used that argument just to nullify the argument, but rather to describe the way we conceive security. That we don't, more often than not, those people speak about it, they don't understand security. That's an example.
Who doesn't understand security?
I mean, more often than not, when we talk about security, we don't understand. Because if we understand it, then we will know that we are not solving the problem by banning it in those areas.
I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
A day after the ban took effect, are we aware of what happened in Ijora?
Of course, yes.
What happened in Ijora?
Crisis. Okada came out. They fought.
With guns?
With guns, yes.
Where did they get guns from?
No, look,
Are Okada people want to carry guns when they drive?
no, I think you're...
I'm trying to buttress the issue of security
I get
here.
you. I think nobody is saying there is insecurity. Nobody
You're
is
talking
saying
about
there is-
Alimosho. I have relations who live in Alimosho, who live in Aguda, in Surulere, and elsewhere. They complain about this. I said, listen, sweetheart, you just have to take it in your stride for now. It's not going to be a permanent issue. I don't believe it's going to be a permanent issue. It's a temporary measure. Because 2 days after the ban, we saw series of trucks moving northerners out of Lagos. I'm sure we all saw them as well. What is the reason?
No,
Are they moving out because they've been checkmated?
no. I think let's.
that's minimizing the issue.
I mean, not just minimizing the issue.
How can?
I think look, let's.
You have to start somewhere.
I've always said something. Let us avoid ghettoization of issues. I think we are going to. If you are not careful, we're going to ghettoize the issues. I don't think anybody is saying there's a problem that the argument about security is a non-starter. No, that is not the argument. We know there is insecurity in the state. What I'm saying that the government has told us that the banning is because of insecurity. Primarily. And I'm saying if that is an argument I will accept, then the question is, you ban them from ABC, but you've taken them to EFG in the same state. How has that approach addressed insecurity? That's a big question that we need to methodically, which I was responding to that in response to what you said in terms of thoughtfulness of the process itself. It's not that we know there's insecurity in the state, but whether the approach we have taken is solving it is another question entirely.
I think these are very, very germane issues. The issues of whether there's a security crisis that needs to be managed with urgency is a critical one, which has been raised here. The issue of thoughtfulness in implementing public policy, which tries to quickly, even in an emergency situation, look at consequences and how to manage
shotgun measures.
Yeah, all of those matter. But I think that if we take a break, we'll go talk to people on the streets and come back, we will be able to focus this conversation on where we go to ensure that optimal outcomes are available to the people. On that note, we'll go talk to them on the streets, and we will be right back. This is Patitos Gang.
When the government is saying that way, it will be reduced. The number of people that are just striving to get there.
For the Okada ban, let me say that I share the concern of Lagos State government in terms of the menace of the Okada riders, in terms of them being a road hazard, in terms of insecurity. But I do not agree with the solutions that they have brought to the table. The reasons given, like I said, insecurity and the road hazards that they are. I don't believe in the ban on the major routes. I believe that there are already self-regulating organizations, the ride-hailing organizations, that have self-regulated themselves in terms of the capacity of their motorcycles, in terms of wearing crash helmets. They have data, they have records that you can use. And so for me, I feel that the way that government could have gone was to bring those on board. Now, let's address those issues. Road hazard. Those self-regulating organizations have given us statistics, which the government has not faulted.
Okada ban in Lagos State is a partial ban, it's not a total ban. For me, I think it would be better for Lagos State to have a total ban on Okada. What they've just done is a partial ban, asking them to leave VI and other few local governments, and then they move to the suburb does not solve the problem. The problem of insecurity, as far as Nigeria is concerned, is very glaring. The whole world is seeing it. If you see what they are using Okada to do in the north, to transport arms, to smuggle arms, they take as if they are carrying palm oil or petrol. But right inside those cakes, you have arms.
And we are back. We're back to face this very important issue. And there are arguments on all sides. There's the argument that part of the reason we have so many people riding Okada is because we are not creating enough employment in this economy. There is the problem that comes from the fact that there's a real threat to the lives and properties of people because of the ease of entry of such Okada riders into neighborhoods in Lagos, whether it be Ikoyi or in Alimosho local government, or Egbeda for that matter. There are issues, big issues that are raising passions. And we've made investments. We've got companies that invested and had long-term agreements with government based on certain understanding of providing transportation, and the investments they made at risk. How do we deal with all of these things to ensure that the Nigerian people get the best out of these kind of crisis situations? That's what the argument is. How can we get it happen?
Lagos State owes a responsibility to Lagosians to provide jobs, security, etc. In doing this, Lagos State should be mindful of the population it's catering for. The influx of foreigners to Lagos in the last 2 years is too much to contain. If you check the population of Okada riders in Lagos, 70% of them are non-Nigerians.
Is that empirical or your imagination?
There's no way I can...
Because the
Well,
Constitution of the Federal Republic...
statistics
And
all kinds of...
The Federal Republic of Nigeria guarantees freedom of movement to associate...
Not to work. The ECOWAS treaty does not allow you to come to Nigeria from...
Nigerians.
No, you're talking about... I'm telling you, I'm saying they're not... They are not...
70% of them are not Nigerians.
They are not
I'm not
Nigerians.
buying that argument.
You may disagree, but I have done personal interview. I stand by the...
It's not empirical.
Well, I cannot... I cannot...
But you know the nice thing about the nice thing about statistics. Long ago, it was said that there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. Yes. So every statistic can be the basis of some.
What I'm saying, I have a driver who is from Kaduna State. He was my driver in Abuja. I brought him to Lagos because I have somebody else there, and we sit down and argue about. Most of the time, when he comes from his place to come to work, I ask him, these people who are here waiting for passengers, are they Hausa people? He said, no, they don't speak Hausa. I speak Hausa fluently. Most times I stand by and I try to speak to them in Hausa. They don't understand the language. So I form an opinion that majority, maybe not 70%, majority are foreigners. So Lagos State has looked at the, like you said, holistically and said, if we don't curb this thing now, we're going to be inundated.
You know,
Charles, sometimes short-term measures are good to arrive at a long...
Now. So why do you have to make people suffer for your failure to do what you should have done? How come we have the influx?
I think if I could jump in here, I think the overarching question that Prof asked is it a reflection of the failure of government to create jobs for the people, which is one of the two fundamental responsibilities of any government? Whenever people have made any argument that, oh, if you ban Okada riders and this and that, there will be armed robbery in Lagos State, an increase in armed robberies, usual kind of argument. I said, look, you are even... So are you saying it's either you ride Okada or you are an armed robber? It's a very silly argument. That's number one. Number two, I think we might get into a cauldron of thinking that we don't have jobs is why you have a lot of Okada riders. I beg to disagree. I'll tell you why. Most Okada riders, let's even assume those of them who are Nigerians, many of them actually are trained artisans.
I agree.
You know, you have mechanics, you have bricklayers, you have carpenters and this and that. But they saw, and they still see Okada as a quick money making market. Yeah, it's a niche, quick money, it's daily money. So why do I want to go and be a bricklayer and earn 4,000 naira after I had labor from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So they jump up. That has killed our artisan industry completely. So you now see Nigerians importing carpenters, bricklayers, tilers from Togo Republic, from Benin Republic. That is where the argument is. So if you ban Okada, and again I say, I understand the government's argument in terms of the reason, the overriding reason. But in terms of the palliative, or in terms of where we go from here, do we need to retrain them? Do we need to create more vocational centers? Do we need to reabsorb them into the system and say, look, I'm talking about the Okada riders now.
I'm talking about them being foreigners.
Wait, not all of them are foreigners. Listen,
a majority
wait.
Look, no, we're dealing with supply and demand side here.
I think that we should invite the immigration service into this conversation at this point.
Because that's for me.
I'm worried about security in this.
For me, what is far more important.
You've been in government. Fashola some years ago gathered people called Igbos and dumped them at River Niger. Say they are nuisance to Lagos. Nobody questioned it. There was no hue and cry. The present governor decides, let me take a measure that might forestall imminent collapse of law and order in Lagos. It was heading there. And you are here still justifying, criticizing that action when your head of security.
No, I don't think anybody is criticizing that action.
Chief of security in Nigeria, the chief of army staff, comes to Lagos where you and I live and say that Boko Haram is in Lagos.
Who's failure?
Look.
Failure. Is it a Sawolu's failure?
Are you going to join the demonstration for the chief of army staff to go?
Let's bring some order. Let's bring some order into this discussion. I don't think anybody is criticizing the government for banning Okada. No, let's minimize this argument.
But that's what we're doing.
That is not what we are doing.
No.
The question Charles raised was whether there was thoughtfulness before the action. We can debate that. The question I pose is, look, if we say it's security, in what way, as the government approach, address the insecurity purportedly caused by the Okada? So nobody is saying, they shouldn't have taken the measure. That is not the argument at all. Then the follow-on question is about jobs. We're saying, look, now that the ban or the restriction has occurred in certain areas, can we then look at these people and say, what do we do with you? Can we retrain you? Because most of you are normally bricklayers and these are artisans. Can we use that one? Can we see an opportunity in that particular action and say this is an opportunity to redevelop the Nigeria's artisan industry, which has been abandoned for this quick money, this and that. So the argument that 90% of Okada riders are not Nigerians and this and that, apart from the fact that when we go down and you look at the statistics, that may not necessarily bear you out, but I'm not going down that route, But the truth is, that is nebulous until we have a concrete, but that doesn't stop us. Even if you only have 10% of them being Nigerians, as a government, Nigerian government has responsibility towards those 10%. And for me, the final point which Prof also hit on is the question of investment. I mean, I had the responsibility of running investment for Lagos for 4 years. And I had first-hand, at least, experience about why certain investors don't want to come to Nigeria at all. So if, as an example, you have OPay, ePay, whatever pay they call them, I mean, serious Okada, some of them serious Okada business. I'm sure there must have been some agreement between them, and I don't know for sure, I'm just assuming. There must have been an agreement between them and the government about the stability and safety of their investment. A few months ago, OPay came out and said they just raised, I think, $50 million. Then 2-3 months down the road, you clobber them. The question is, what message is Nigeria's Lagos State government sending to investors who are coming to Lagos State?
And the demand side is this. The commuters who are suffering endlessly since this ban. We haven't heard from government. What is the holistic plan for a public transport policy?
But the government is also saying that these commuters, they are getting killed by the motorcycles are just...
So, agreed. So how come then? Because it still goes back to the fact, how come we had the influx of Okada?
We're not going to finish this conversation here. It will go on. It will go on the streets. We want it to continue on Instagram, Facebook, all of these Patitos Gang handles, Twitter, that are running on the screen now. But let's make sure that public choice is not iatrogenic in its disposition of the policy doing more damage to the patient than the problem is sought to kill. All the same, we must bear in mind that without security, everything else fails. We'll see you next week.